If you want him to feel like you are enough for him, if you want him to feel like he doesn't want to lose you, if you want him to feel like he doesn't want to go anywhere else, then you need to connect with his emotional needs. Connecting with his emotional needs will make him feel like he just can't get enough of you, like he misses you when you're not around, like he just wants to think about you, and he cares about you, and he wants to be around you all the time. That is the power of the emotional needs. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 factors that you need to connect with if you want him to be addicted to you. If you're ready to hear what that is, type yes into the chat and let's get started. Okay, so the emotional needs. Number one most important emotional need is something we call significance. This is actually, for most men, this is the number one primary important need that they have, that they want to feel. So there's a different kind of priority that different needs have, emotional needs have with people. And for most men, like the overwhelming majority of men, significance, feeling important, is their number one need, right? So he wants to feel like he's your hero. He wants to feel like he's doing a good job. And if you can communicate that to him, if you can connect with him in that way and let him know that he is your hero, that he's important to you, that he's important in the world, then he will feel very, very connected to you. He'll feel like you're really important to him, right? Because you're fulfilling that need, you're connecting with him in that way. Other ways of doing this are seeing him for who he is and who he wants to become. So there's kind of a difference there, right? And one part of it is seeing who he is today, right now, and seeing him for the man that he wants to become, the man he wants to grow into. And again, you don't want to fall in love with his potential, but you do want to be able to see where he's going and who he's trying to become. Because most people, when they look at people, they don't really see that. And a lot of times, even with friends and family or whoever you're with, they just see who you are right now. And if you can see him for who he's trying to become, but also love him for who he is right now, that's really, really powerful stuff. So, who is he trying to become in his life? And the other part of it is supporting him through his journey. How can you express that you're proud of who he is and what he's accomplished and what he's doing? And how can you show him that you see what it is that he's doing? If you're here with us right now, say hi in the chat and tell us where in the world you're watching this from. It's cool to see women from all over the world watching these live streams. So number two is investment. So you want him to invest in you. It's very, very important. Allow him to give to you. Men don't fall in love because of what you do for them. They fall in love because of what they do for you. And so the more invested he is in you, the more he'll be afraid of losing you, the more he'll justify why he's with you and how much he likes you and what he thinks of you and how he thinks that you're just the most amazing woman, amazing person in his entire life. And so you want him to invest. And there's a bunch of different types of investment, and you want to just allow him to do all these things, especially in the world that we're in today. A lot of women kind of come in with the like strong independent woman thing, right? Which I totally get, right? And having independence and being mentally and emotionally strong is important in this day and age, with all the uncertainty and crazy that's going on in the world right now. It's important to really have your own center and know where you are and know who you are. And at the same time, you don't want to push the guy away from you, which is what happens with a lot of women, is that guys come in and they want to do things, right? Because it's natural. He likes you, he looks at you, he cares about you. And so he wants to start doing things for you. He wants to give things to you. And you want to just allow those things in. And a lot of times women don't allow those things in because you may not feel like you are worthy of it, or whatever, right? Maybe it's from like past childhood things where you've kind of put up a block because you're afraid of getting too close to people, or somebody tried to manipulate you in the past, or a whole bunch of different reasons, right? But ultimately you want to let him invest in you. And so the different types of investment, there's a bunch of them. Some of the most important ones are time investments. So if he invests time in you, spending time with you, energy investment. So just hanging out with you, going to you, figuring out things for you. Emotional investment. So connecting with you through his emotions, having emotional experiences when he's around you. That's a really, really powerful one. Thought investment, which is just thinking about you, if nothing else, but also thinking about things that you're doing together, or seeing things and it reminding him of you, or any of that kind of stuff. Gifts is a big one, because a lot of times guys want to give women gifts, and you just want to receive, just receive whatever he's giving you. And I know that there's kind of this thing out there where some women are kind of worried, because they're like, oh, well, if a guy pays for dinner, or if a guy gives me a gift or something, there's going to be some kind of expectation of me hooking up with him or whatever, which he could have that expectation, right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. What matters is that you have strong boundaries, and that you know what you want and what you don't want, what makes you comfortable, what makes you not comfortable, and that you get used to expressing your boundaries, and expressing what's okay, and expressing what you want and what you don't want, and all that kind of stuff, because that is the powerful part of it. So number three is connection. So the emotional need of connection is really powerful. And this is really just getting vulnerable. One of them is getting vulnerable with each other. So do you share your challenges together? Do you overcome problems together? Do you talk about what's going on in your lives, and what you're facing, what you're dealing with? Just the different things that are going on in your life that are challenges or problems, or some people like to call problems opportunities, whatever, any of that kind of stuff, right? Um, are you sharing it? Are you talking about it? Are you connecting with each other on those things? And it's just kind of that expression of those things, and feeling like there's somebody there with you, and you're connecting on those things, and you're talking about those things, can be really, really powerful. Another one is commonalities that you guys have. And so here's something you'll remember. It's the differences that we have that create the passion between us, but it's the things that we have in common that really create the bond that we have. And so find and bond on things that are similar. And it can be anything. I mean, it could be food, right? Food's actually a really good one. If you both like sushi, or if you both like pizza, or if you both like a certain artist or music, or whatever, right? Any of those kinds of things. It can just be little things. It could be a movie that you like together, or anything, right? Find commonalities that you guys have together, and connect through those commonalities, because it creates a bond. It creates a strong bond between two people. And like I said, it's the differences that create the passion, but it's those similarities that create the bond. And we'll talk more about the differences, and how to find those, and talk about those, and create those, and connect through those, so that you have passion, here in just a minute. So if you get what I'm talking about right now, say I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and ask whatever questions you have, and I will get to them here in just a little bit. So number four is alignment. And so alignment is really, really important. The first part of it is, are you moving in the same direction in life together? So I want you to remember this one. Couples who grow together stay together. There's actually a study that was done on this, and they found that the number one thing that keeps couples together is growing in the same direction. They're growing together. They grow together. They evolve together, or whatever you want to call it, right? You're going through life and there's things that are going on. Are you guys moving in the same direction together, or are you guys kind of separating and going in different directions? And the more that you grow together, the more of a bond that you're going to have together, the happier you're going to be together. The more that you're growing apart and growing into different directions, the more that you're going to have happiness without your partner, and your partner is going to have happiness without you. And the more you're going to look at each other and feel like there's a disconnect that's there. And so it's really, really important that you're aligning in the direction that you're growing together. It doesn't mean you have to do the exact same things, or you have to be on the exact same path as each other, but it needs to be in alignment. If you look at each other and you see where he's growing and where you're growing, and you can see that in a few years you're going to be in completely different places, and you're going to feel like you're completely different people, then that's what's going to end up happening. And you're going to look back at each other and say, what happened to us? And if you can grow together, then you're going to look back at each other and say, wow, that was an amazing journey that we had together. And I'm so glad that I had someone amazing like you, wonderful like you in my life to share that with. And that's really what you want. Next part of it is, are you on the same team? This is something that I call the partnership principle. And there are too many people out there, and this is very, very common today, especially with the war of the sexes that is going on, where everybody's looking at each other and they're like, oh, man bad or woman bad, right? And it's just like people are fighting all the time, and they're fighting to try to get their needs met. They're fighting to try to be a couple. And they don't realize that it's just pushing each other apart, because they feel like they need that connection. They feel like they want to be with somebody, but they aren't. They have all these blocks and all these different things that are preventing them from actually being with them. And a huge part of the problem is usually just because they aren't in partnership. They're not on the same team. They're not connected together, moving in the same direction in life. Instead, they're fighting each other to be together, right? Which is a really weird concept, but it happens all the time. You may have experienced this before. It's actually highly likely that you have. And so, are you on the same team, right? When you guys are arguing, or you're fighting, or you're talking about something, do you feel like you're on opposite sides, or do you feel like you're together working through problems, discussing things, talking about stuff, and trying to get through these things together? If you feel like you're on opposite sides and you're just pointing over at the other person and talking about the other person all the time instead of talking with them, then you're probably not together. You're probably on opposite sides. And so you want to bring yourself together and show each other that you're on that same side and that you're with each other on this journey of life. Next part of it is, do you share similar values, right? And so this is really the big topics, the things that are really important to you and to him in life. And sometimes people can be together, right? Like my dad and my stepmom they're like opposite sides of the political spectrum, but they stay together because they have a lot of other similar values that they share with each other. And although they fight all the time, it's one of those things, right? The more that you really align on the big values, the more that you can stay with each other, and the more harmony is going to be there, the more that you can see each other and be on the same page as each other and feel like partnership is really easy and it's natural and it's normal for the two of you. And so you want to look at those things, and you want to make sure that there aren't any big deal breakers kind of separating you or whatever, because a lot of times people ignore the red flags, and it's the red flags that you ignore now that'll be the reason that you break up in the future. I can promise you that one. I can promise you that one. Number five is excitement. Excitement, like I said, it's the differences that create that passion. And that's what we're talking about with excitement. Is there an element of polarity between the two of you? And so usually what I'm talking about with polarity is feminine and masculine, although there are other types of polarity that we can talk about as well, like introversion and extroversion, or, light and dark, things like that. However, the masculine and feminine is pretty powerful, and it's the one that helps most people, I think, because most women are actually feminine at their core and most men are actually masculine at their core. But a lot of people have kind of taken on these different roles because of society, and our society is pushing women to be masculine and men to be feminine, and all kinds of weird stuff is going on right now in the world. However, if you can drop into your feminine and you can push him into his masculine, it's actually for most things, for most, not everything, right? But for most things, the traditional gender roles are actually, they very much favor women. They very much favor women, especially for dating and relationships. They very much favor women. So anytime you can push him into his masculine, anytime you can encourage him to be in his masculine, anytime you can reward him for being in his masculine, the better. The better. You want to do that anytime you can. Anytime you can drop into your feminine, most men will start picking up the ball and getting into their masculine when women are dropping into their feminine, when the woman around them, especially the woman that they care about, drops into her feminine. Most men will start stepping up and start getting into their masculine when you do that. And when you encourage it and you push it and you reward it, it makes it even more that a guy will get into his masculine, because more men actually feel really, really comfortable in their masculine. A lot of men have just been, masculinity has been kind of demonized in a lot of different ways. And so a lot of guys are kind of weird about it, or they're afraid of getting into it, or, you know, they feel like it's not acceptable, especially around women and all that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of a weird thing, but it's a really, really powerful dynamic that can create a lot of passion and excitement in your relationship. Next part is, do you have fun together? You know, do you play with each other? Do you connect with each other through kind of a playful state? And this is really, really powerful because it keeps that excitement alive between the two of you, just being playful, just connecting, teasing each other, flirting with each other, just playing with each other all the time, right? If you look at couples that have been together for, you know, 50, 60, 70 years or whatever, those couples, the ones that are still happy and still excited about each other, they're always playing with each other. They're messing with each other. They're teasing each other, because that's how you keep that excitement and that passion alive in the relationship. It's really, really powerful stuff. Is there variety in what it is that you do together? So you want to break habits, you want to do new things, you want to have variety in the things that you do that's normal. So let's take an example like going to restaurants. Let's say that you have a date night once a week and you like to go to a restaurant and eat and try new things, right? You want to go to different restaurants, you want to try different things on the menus, you want to do all those kinds of things, because that's what creates that variety. That's what creates that excitement. It's like, it's the unknown. It's the uncertainty of what's going to happen when you go to this place and what's going to be there. And what are the things that we're going to try and we're going to eat and we're going to do all these things. You want to have that variety in your lives, because that's what creates excitement. If you're in the same routine over and over and over every single day, it gets boring. It's it's knowing what's going to happen and all the things that are going on that creates boredom. It's comfort that creates boredom. It's certainty that creates boredom. It's unpredictability that creates excitement. It's uncertainty. It's variety. It's all those things that create excitement. And it's important to have some certainty and comfort and boredom in your relationship, because it creates stability. But at the same time, you want to have variety and excitement and passion and uncertainty and unpredictability, because it creates that spark and it creates that passion. And people that go from having a great relationship to end up being roommates are the people that lose that variety, that unpredictability, that the differences, the polarity and stuff in the relationship. And so you want to always have all the different things. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions in the chat and I will get to them here in just a second. I'm going to go back over all the 5 factors. Again, we're talking about emotional needs. Number 1 is significance, the number 1 thing that men want from anything out there in the world. Like the number one thing that men fight for and long for and go towards is significance, feeling like they're important. Number two is investment. He needs to invest in you. You need to let him invest in you. Number three is connection. You want to be connecting with each other through your vulnerabilities, through your commonalities, through bonding. Number four is alignment, being on the same team, being on the same side, moving in the same direction in life. Do you share the same values? And number five is excitement. It's the things that we share together, the commonalities that create the bond, but it's the differences, it's the variety, it's the uncertainty, the unpredictability that creates the passion. All right. So what questions do you have? And if you don't have any questions, type this into the chat. What is your favorite first date? If you had a dream first date, if you're like, hey, you know what? Best first dates are coffee dates, or maybe it's a walk in the park, or maybe it's going on an exciting, adventure or something like that. Or maybe it's going on a hike or whatever. Maybe it's dinner dates. I know some women that they always want to have dinner dates. What's your favorite? What's the best first date? What do you think the best first date is? So hello. Emily says, I subscribe. Well, everybody should subscribe. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you get more great videos just like this one. Vera says, such an interesting subject. Sometimes it's not so good to have an addicted guy. Yeah, I mean, if he's coming from a toxic place, it's not a good thing. And if you're coming from a toxic place, it's not a good thing. That's why it's so important to heal and make sure that you're developing a secure attachment style and developing yourself and making sure that you're coming from a healthy place. Because if you're coming from a toxic place, then anything is not going to be very good. Everything's going to be bad. Everything's going to be a problem. If he's coming from a toxic place, everything is going to be a problem for him. And if you're coming from a healthy place and you're creating healthy attachments, one, you're both going to have boundaries and you're going to look at things and you're going to be like, is that something that I want to be a part of or is it not? And if it's not, then you're going to get away from it. And if it is, then you're going to be a part of it. And you want to make sure that you're both coming from healthy places and that if he's got toxic things, that's why it's important to wait, right? So many people are jumping into relationships like immediately. They're just like, they go and they see a pool somewhere. It's just some random pool that they see somewhere and they just take their clothes off and jump in, right? That's how people are treating relationships these days. And then they jump in the water and they find out it's freezing cold in the water and they're like, oh, they want to get out, or they find out there's like a bunch of sludge in the water. It's like really gross water. They don't know because they didn't do any research. They didn't look at the pool. They didn't go over and check the pool. What's in the pool? Is this a good pool for me to be in or not? They don't know. They just jump in the pool. And so you want to check the pool out before you jump into it. And that takes time sometimes. And so it's important to make sure you're taking your time. Make sure you're taking your time, Viera. Make sure you're taking your time. And if you haven't checked out my program, go check it out, theforeverwomanformula.com. It's a great program. Angie caught me live. Thanks, Angie. Thanks for being here. I think you're awesome. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Lots of yeses. And if you're here with us right now, tell us, what is the best first date? What's the best first date that you can have with somebody? Is it going on coffee? Is it going dancing? Is it going out to dinner? Is it him spending lavishly on you? I know some of you out there like guys who just spend lavishly on you on the first date. Some of you don't. Some of you are like, I don't want men to spend any money on me at all. Tiffany says, Matthew, thank you so much for helping me reestablish my value and worth as a woman. Well, you are absolutely welcome. And remember, Tiffany, you are worth it. Just remember that. Always remember it. Remember the Queen's mantra as well. It's all good stuff to remember. It's all good stuff to remember. Rosvita says, thanks for the reminders about true love worth to fight for. Yeah. Char says, yes, and that's if a man buys you anything, he just may have expectations. You can always ask him if he is having expectations. If he buys you dinner, communication will clear that up. Yeah, it can clear that up for sure. And you can also just have boundaries as well. I mean, if somebody wants to give you something, it can turn in kind of a awkward situation where you're like, oh, do you have any expectations about this, right? All of a sudden it turns into like what are we talking about, right? And I mean, that could clear things up early on if you run into that problem a lot. If you don't run into that problem very often, it's probably not worth having a conversation about. And if a guy gets all weird about it, it's like, okay, well, I got a free date or a free dinner date, and this guy's an idiot, and now I'm leaving. So you want to make sure you're not putting yourself into bad situations, right? That's the key of everything, is you want to make sure that you're always putting yourself into good situations. And we have it's one of those things where I hear it so often where women are like, going on a first date to a dude's place, like straight over to his place. And they're like, oh, you tried to hook up with me. It's like, yeah, you went over to his place, like on the first date, like to meet him there. Like, it's crazy. Don't do that kind of stuff. Like, don't put yourself into bad situations. Go to public places. Make sure that you're setting yourself up so that you're not allowing a man to take advantage of you in any way or put you into some kind of weird situation. Make sure you're taking care of your safety, right? Take care of yourself first, especially when you're on these dates and doing stuff like that. Always take care of yourself first. Matt, you have my favorite color t-shirt on. I really love red. Well, this is my ghosting t-shirt. Are you still alive? I hope you like the t-shirt. I hope you like that t-shirt. All right. Amina says he shared the other girl's text with her. What is your take on this? I'm not sure what you're talking about. The other girl's text with her. He shared the other girl's text. I don't. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You need to explain yourself. Explain yourself some more, Amina. Explain yourself. Marianne says, you're helping me. Thank you. You are welcome. You are welcome. Vasilia says, I want to ask you. She's asking me right now. I want to ask you, Vasilia. Can you forgive a woman who ghosting you? Well, it depends on what you mean by ghosting, right? If a woman ghosts you, that means that she ignores your messages and never talks to you again, right? And so I'm assuming that at some point you're talking about her coming back and trying to talk to you again. If I was a guy and I was dating a woman and she like started ignoring my messages and just stopped talking to me again, and then at some point she like came back and tried to start talking to me again, I absolutely would not talk to her again. I would not do that. I would not talk to her again. Why? Because you're allowing in somebody who's treating you like garbage, right? And so you don't want to do that. You don't ever want to do that. If somebody treats you badly, they ignore you, right? All that's doing is saying, hey, in the future, what this person's going to do is more of that behavior, and probably even worse, because now you're allowing it, right? What you allow is how you teach people to treat you. And so if you allow people to leave and disappear and ignore your messages and then show up one day and be like, oh no, everything's cool, okay, you just forgive me for that, it's like, like we would have to have a really good bond for me to be willing to do anything like that. And that woman would be on probation, right? And she would have to prove that she was not going to do that again, and that she was going to treat me a lot better than that. And the likelihood that would happen is, I mean, it's really low. It's more likely that she's going to continue doing the same thing that she's always done, not because people can't change, but because most people don't. The best prediction of someone's future behavior is their past behavior, because most people live in patterns. And so if somebody's living in patterns and they're doing the same thing and they do something, you can best predict what they're going to do in the future. That's why it's so important to look at people's behaviors, and why everybody talks about how actions speak louder than words, because their actions show a lot of who they are in their character and how they're going to be behaving in the future. And so you want to look at a person, how a person behaves. You want to look at how a person behaves. Melinda says, are you on the YouTube channel live right now? I am, Melinda. I'm on the YouTube channel. I'm on the Facebook channel. I'm on a whole bunch of different channels. Leslie says, how about when a man ghosts you? Well, if he ghosts you, just move on. It's one of the reasons why you should be dating in abundance, right? You want to date in abundance, and you want to look at a man's words. You want to look at his actions. You want to make sure they're in alignment, and then you want to see consistency over time. And so if you do that, Leslie, then if he ghosts you at some point, you're going to see that behavior and you'll be like, okay, that's what's happening with him. I'm not getting overly invested. I'm not getting caught up in just dating him. I'm dating in abundance. I'm dating other people. And he ghosts me, and that's fine because I'm dating other people and I'm not overly invested in him. The problem is when you're overly invested in somebody and then all of a sudden they ghost you. And sometimes you can't do everything about somebody doing that, right? Because people will, like, maybe he proves himself to you over some time, and then eventually you fall for him, and then he ghosts you, and it can happen, right? It happens all the time. It happens just all the time with men and women, right? Women do it actually ghost more than men do. They've shown studies on this, and they found that women ghost 150% more than men do. And so it's one of those things, right? It happens, but you want to make sure that you're putting yourself into the best situation that you possibly can by dating in abundance. That's why I created this system, Leslie, the Forever Woman system. I created that system because I want to give you, I took all the patterns, right? What are the patterns that women use that get into great relationships, that find the man of their dreams, that end up getting in a relationship where they're loved and they're seen and they're cherished by a great high quality man? And what are the ones that they don't? And I looked at the different patterns that women used over hundreds of thousands of women. And I said, okay, these are the patterns that work. And these are the patterns that don't work. If you want a system that works, if you want to put yourself in the highest probability of getting into the relationship that you want to have, you need to make sure you're doing certain things, like dating in abundance, like not overly investing in a guy, like making sure that you're connecting with a guy's emotions so that when he does connect with you, he feels like he really likes you and he wants to be around you more. Right? Like giving him space so that he can invest in you and he can connect with you, like changing the way that you think about men and dating and relationships. And instead of focusing on some dude and going, oh, I got to get this guy to like me and I want him to love me. Why doesn't he love me? Right? Instead of doing that, instead you look and you say, hey, this is the relationship that I want. And a guy's got to take me to this relationship. If a guy's not taking me there, then he's disqualifying himself as a potential partner. He's disqualified. He's not allowed to be a partner anymore because he's not taking me where I want to go. And that saves you a lot of heartbreak. It saves you a lot of pain. It saves you getting into the wrong situations over and over and over again. And it makes sure that you get into a great situation where you're valued and you're seen and you're cherished by a high quality guy. Does that make sense there, Leslie? Does that make sense to you? I hope that makes sense to you. I hope that makes sense to you. Char says, if men weren't so talk phobic and women weren't so emotional spastics, we'd probably do so much better. You might be onto something there, Char. You might be onto something. You might be onto something. All right. Okay, what do we have? What do we have? Questions. Hello, hello, hello. Adrietta says picnic. You want to go on a picnic, huh? I like picnics. They're fun. Nikki says stay home, cuddle, and watch a movie. That's the best first date. Is that stay home, watch a movie, and cuddle? That's your best first date? Okay. I would not suggest that first date. I'm just gonna go out there and say that. Maybe for like a 10th date or something like that. But first date, probably not. Matar says going out and getting some pizza and some wine. Sandy says, question, how to be different, been seduced versus pursued. How to different. Sandy wants to know how to different, seduced versus pursued. Well, they're both kind of the same thing, right? they're both part of the same world, because a man needs to seduce you. That's part of the plan. That's part of what he needs to do if he wants to be in a relationship with you. If he doesn't do that, he's never going to be in a relationship with you unless you seduce him, which the probability of a woman seducing a man is really, really low. It happens, and it happens to guys that are really, really attractive men. But for most men, it's not going to happen for them. And so if he wants to be in a relationship with you, he needs to seduce you at some point. However, I will say this, Sandy. However, you get to decide when that happens, how quickly that happens, and all that, right? It's two people. Men are the ones that are pursuing women for relationships, for sex, for, whatever. And you get to determine, as the woman, since you're part of this, you get to determine how quickly that happens, or whether it happens at all, or whether it doesn't happen, or any of that kind of stuff, right? Women are the gatekeepers to sex. That's the way that it's thought of. And I'd say that that's a pretty good, accurate description of how things work with it. And men are the gatekeepers for relationships. And so men are, if he's attracted to you, he's going to want to hook up with you. That's just a part of the plan. And that's part of the motivation that he has. He sees you, he thinks, beautiful woman, I want to hook up with her. And so he starts talking to you. And while he's talking to you, he's going to start having kind of different emotional reactions. He's going to have some different realizations about what's going on. He's going to think about you. He's going to see you. He's going to be like, Sandy's really cute and wonderful woman, right? And he's going to slot you into different categories just subconsciously. And they're part of the different categories. One is like the hookup category, right? Or the one night stand category, let's say that. There's a one night stand category of, I want to hook up with this woman tonight and then never talk to her again, right? That's the one night stand category. You want to avoid that at all costs, and you can, right? Just don't hook up with them. And then there's the casual hookup situationship kind of a category that he can put you in. And you look at that, and the way that you make sure that you don't get into that is by having real conversations with him about what he's doing, about what he wants, you need to slow him down and make sure that you pace things. And, most guys, if it becomes difficult, right? Like there's this 3-date rule that's out there on the men's side, and women's side is what actually came from the women's side. That's where the 3-date rule came from. It came from a book called The Rules. And guys found out about it, right? Where women were like, oh, you don't sleep with a guy until after the 3rd date. And so guys were like, oh, just go on 3 dates with a woman and then hook up with her, right? And so that arbitrary rule stopped working. Well, if you push things back even further, if you just keep pushing things back and you're like, hey, no, I want to get to know you. I want to make sure that, I really like you. I want to make sure that this is going in the right direction for us to, for me to feel like I'm valued, and that, we're in some kind of relationship or something, in order for me to feel like I want to hook up with somebody. That's what I need. That's what I need to experience. And, most guys that, if they're just looking to hook up, there's only a certain amount of time that they want to spend with you before they feel like they're wasting their time. And so if you talk to a guy and you find out, even if he tells you that he wants a real relationship, or he tells you he loves you, or whatever nonsense he tells you, you don't hook up with him. You keep waiting because you're looking for consistency over time. You're looking for, what are his actions? You're looking to make sure that he's a quality man. You're looking to see what his red flags are. You're looking to see what his patterns are. Your job as a woman, if you want to get into a real relationship, is to become a pattern finder. That's what you want to do, is you want to be a pattern finder, and you want to look for patterns on what's going on with this guy, because his patterns will show you who he is. And so if you hook up with him quickly on the first couple of dates, then you're not going to get to see his patterns. And if you wait to hook up with him, you're going to be able to see more of his patterns, more and more and more of his patterns. If you see him in difficult situations, you're going to see more of his patterns. You're going to see more of his character and who he is as a man. And so you want to have all those kinds of things going on, and you want to wait, and you want to ask questions. You can ask a guy what he's looking for. Let's assume for a second that you're dating on dating apps. You can ask a guy what he's looking for before you even meet up with him. And I suggest you do. Just say, hey, what are you looking for on here? And he'll tell you. And if it's not in alignment with what you're looking for, then don't go on a date with him. You don't need to go on a date with that guy. Right? And it's not a problem. Are some guys going to run from you when you ask them that question? Absolutely. And that's a giant red flag that shows you that they're not what you're looking for. It doesn't matter how cute he is, or how great his personality is, or what he wrote on his profile, or, how cool his images are and whatever. If he's not looking for the same thing that you're looking for, then you don't want to go on a date with him. And so my suggestion is you start having these conversations and talking about these things, maybe not, making an interview style thing, because that's boring and it sucks, but actually have, just ask the question, what are you looking for? What are you looking for on here? And do it early. And that's the first indicator. And then the second indicator is how he connects with you, and do you connect with each other well? And if you stop hooking up with guys quickly and you ask them these questions early on, you can weed out the wrong ones quickly, and you can make sure you're not getting overly invested in hooking up with and being in bad situations with guys that don't want anything real with you. I know, Sandy, you asked a really short question, and you're probably expecting a short, easy answer for that, but I am trying to give you everything that I can to make sure that you know what's going on, so that you can put yourself into a great situation there, Sandy. So I hope that helps. Fiona says, I'm sure this is going to be a good one. Fiona says, is there any way to change someone's values? Like if they are pro-vax and I am anti? Or do you think it's best to just stick to values that are very similar? It feels like opposites do attract more. Opposites do, right? Because of what we were talking about earlier with the emotional need of excitement or passion or whatever you want to call it. It's that emotional need that's what creates that chemistry. That's what creates that like, oh, this person's so interesting and different, right? You don't understand them. You don't get them. There's something new about them. And so you get excited about that, right? There's something different than what you're expecting. You're like, oh, I'm anti-vax. And he's like, well, I'm pro-vax, right? And all of a sudden there's like this weird tension there, right? But it's kind of exciting still. And so it's one of those things where, especially an important thing, is it possible to change? Absolutely. Right? For something like this, though, especially when we're in this society right now where people are people are polarizing each other. The media is polarizing us. Outlets are polarizing us. The media out there, doesn't matter if you're looking at right wing, left wing, any of those kinds of things. They are radicalizing people right now. And people are becoming more and more polarized, and it's purposeful. The whole thing's purposeful. It's designed. And is there a way to connect with him? Yeah. Is there a way to change his views? Possibly, depending on how attached he is to it, right? A lot of these people aren't really as attached to pro or anti-vax as they may seem like it, right? They're just taking on this position because they've kind of been thrown into these different categories. And a lot of people that are pro-vax are people that just want people to be safe. They just want to feel safe and secure. They want people around them to do what's good for society, and they're coming from a good standpoint. And it's the same with people that are anti-vax. If you're anti-vax, it might not be that you're totally anti-vax, right? It might be that you just have some questions about things that are going on. It might be, we're like totally getting into politics here. It might be that you have some concerns about a specific vaccine. And so it's not that things aren't usually as black and white as we're kind of putting them into. And one of the things that you want to stop doing is stop labeling. You want to stop labeling him as being pro-vax, because when you kind of throw on that label and put on that identity, people live into those things. And so the more that he lives into the pro-vax identity and you live into the anti-vax identity, the more that you're going to identify and agree with and start having viewpoints in alignment with those perspectives. And if you want to connect with somebody, regardless of their viewpoints on it, you want to see from their viewpoint, and you want to try to understand them. You want to be curious. You want to ask them questions. You want to feel like you get where they're coming from. And when they feel, not you, but they feel like you get them and where they're coming from, they're going to be far more open to hearing other points of view and potentially even changing them or agreeing with them and seeing your point of view, and then saying, maybe you have some valid concerns there. And then, if you really want to, we're not going to go into the scope of how to change someone's opinions. Can you do it? Absolutely. Can you change their entire worldview? Absolutely, you can. Depending on how attached they are to it, depends on how willing they are to do it. And the less attached they are to it, the easier it is. The more attached to it they are, the more difficult it is, and the more things that you need in play in order to do it. And my suggestion is that instead of doing those things, is that you work on connecting and bonding with them and showing them that you're on their side and that you can see their point of view and that you love them and that you think that they have legitimate concerns, right? That's the better way of doing things. And that's the easier way of doing things. And if you want to sway their opinion in some way, start with that. Start with getting them. Start with making them feel like you're on their side, like like you're with them, like you see them, that you see them as a person, like they're validated, and that what they think is important. So does that make sense, Fiona? I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole too far. Although maybe I already have. Mariana says, my guy wants to hook up the first time I meet him. So I said no. Well, there you go. Problem solved, Marion. Problem solved. Gail says, going out to a nice restaurant is still the best for me. I'm sure it is. El Schreiner. L. Schreiner says, how soon do I meet after chatting daily, as we chat a lot, and how much should I chat or not chat? So I'm just going to assume that you're talking about meeting someone online or on a dating app. And so L. Schreiner, what you want to do is you want to meet up as quickly as you feel comfortable meeting up with them, right? You talk to them a little bit, you feel comfortable, you want to meet them. If they do not meet with you, if they don't attempt to meet with you within 7 days, my suggestion is you stop talking to them. Just stop talking to them altogether. Just tell them, I mean, you can communicate it. You want to communicate it. Say, hey, I'm really busy. I don't have time to chat. If you want to meet up with me, I'm happy to create some time and meet up with you, but I don't have time to sit around and chat all day. Right? That's what you want to do, because you don't want to build a relationship over the internet. And there's too many people, men and women, by the way, who just want to chat. That's all they want, is to chat. And the more that you can just cut that off, the more you can save your own heart and make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation. Because for the most part, you have no idea who these people are online. And they can pretend like they're anything, right? He's some handsome, good-looking guy. He might be, he might be completely different than what you think he is. And so you want to make sure that you're not getting overly attached to somebody, to your idea, your image, your imagination of who this person is. And so you don't want to talk for more than 7 days. That's my suggestion. If you want to talk to them, go ahead and talk to them, but don't get overly attached. If you feel like you're getting overly attached, overly invested, stop. Just stop it and tell him that you want to meet up and that you'd love to meet up if he wants to set up a date, or however you want to phrase it, and that you don't have time to chat, but if he wants to meet up, that you'll make some time for him. And that's what I suggest you do. That's what I suggest you do there, L. Schreiner. And if you haven't gotten my program yet, check it out, theforeverwomanformula.com. Vasilia says, a date in a warm house. In a warm house when outside snows. Vera says, you're right. These guys were already drug addicts before having met me. Yep, it's true. It's true. Sandy says, question. How to deal with inconsistent behavior in a man who I am dating. So going back to this idea of dating in abundance, right? So you're dating in abundance, you're setting values or setting boundaries, you're setting standards. Those are the main ways to communicate in the initial dating phase with guys that are acting funny, right? And I would say that inconsistent behavior is acting funny. And so, depending on what you mean by inconsistent behavior, first off, if he's like on and off here and there, you probably shouldn't pay that much attention to him, right? You don't want to be overly controlling either. You don't want to, try to get guys, trying to make these guys do things. If he's inconsistent and it's like the early stages of dating, just stop dating him, And if he wants to meet up again, just say, hey, I really enjoyed the time that we've met together, but I'm really looking for somebody that's a little bit more consistent in my life. And if he's like, oh, well, I was just doing this or whatever, you get to decide whether you want to give him another chance or not. And if you do give him another chance, that's fine. Just look at his patterns and make sure he's being consistent this time. And if he's not, don't give him another chance. But you want to set standards, right? Setting standards is, I love it when, guys do this, or, it's so attractive when guys do that, right? It's really cool when guys like, I feel so taken care of when a guy makes sure to check up on me once a day or once every other day, or, a couple times a week. It just makes me feel like I have a really high value man in my life. And, it's just really powerful and awesome. You want to catch him in good behavior and reward him for those things. But ultimately, if he's a new guy then you just want to, if he's a new guy, then you want to cut him off and let him know that, you want something different than what he's doing. Because if it's inconsistent, if it's that inconsistent, it's like, what are you even doing dating him? Why are you dating him at all? Right? Why are you dating him at all? That's the question you want to have. And he's probably dating other people, right? You want to assume that he's dating other people. If you're not exclusive, you should be dating other people. And so you shouldn't be getting all bent out of shape that he's dating other people. But, if you like him and you want something more with him, but he's being inconsistent, and you're at a point where you either need to cut things off or he needs to be more consistent, you need to either cut him off and let him know that he needs to be more consistent. That's the best way to do it, is cut him off and just be like, hey, I'm looking for somebody that's, going to be connecting with me more, and who wants to go on more dates with me and all that kind of stuff. Because, I like the man that I'm going to have in my life to be like this, And if he wants to do that, it's great. And if he doesn't, that's fine too, because he might not be looking for anything serious, depending on what kind of conversations you've had with him. Hopefully you've had real conversations. And so you should know at this point whether he's saying he wants something real or not. And so, yeah. Does that make sense, Sandy? You have a lot of good questions today, Sandy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, Sandy. Thanks for being here. KK says, hi, Matt. How do you know when you should be creating distance to keep it interesting versus letting him invest time? I don't want to play games, but in past, I've definitely made mistake of oversaturating. Oversaturating. You made the mistake of oversaturation, huh? Well, just this thought process kind of runs down the lines of game playing, right? Because you're like, okay, well, how do I, do all these things in the right way, right? Like, the question I have for you is, do you ever need space? Are you one of the do you have an attachment style where you feel like you can't ever get enough of somebody? Or do you have an attachment style where it's a little bit more even? If you don't have an attachment style like that, you may want to start working on your own kind of self, right? And spending more time with yourself, getting used to being with yourself, whatever your biggest kind of challenges you have are, right? It might be that you have problems just being with yourself and spending time with yourself. You may want to start working on those kinds of things. And as far as creating space, if you don't need space, why are you creating it? And what kind of a situation is happening here? I have all kinds of different questions about your situation here, but because if you're coming from a place where you are like getting really overly anxious about somebody not being around you or not being in contact with you, or you can't ever get enough contact with somebody, my first gut feeling is that you have something going on with you that's making it so that you're having you're feeling like you need somebody to be around you all the time, right? Normal people, they want space sometimes and they want connection sometimes. And there's kind of this ebb and flow that goes on between two people. And so if a guy is reaching out and he wants to be connected with you, and assuming that he's a normal, healthy adult male, then he's going to have those same things going on. And so he's going to be pursuing you and wanting to hang out with you. And when he wants to do that, you let him do that, assuming that it's normal and it's natural and it's, within kind of a healthy guidelines. And if it's not, and you're unable to see that, then you're going to be getting into unhealthy situations from now until the end of time. And if it is, and you are coming from a healthy space, then it should be pretty easy for you to see what's healthy and what's not healthy without needing to, try to manipulate the situation so that you're creating more space. You're like, okay, I need space, right? Because I'm, coming from this crazy place and I don't know, right? But it doesn't even matter if you are coming from that toxic place. You're going to continue to attract toxic people, and you're going to continue to create the same situations over and over and over and over again. And so if you're creating just really bad situations, you want to take some time and heal. You want to break the old patterns that you have. You want to spend more time with yourself. You want to spend more time healing. You want to spend more time connecting with people that are doing healing work as well, and mentors who are doing healing work, and talking to them about it and talking to them about what's going on with you. A great place to go is actually our community, the Goddess community. You can check it out on Facebook. If you type in Goddess, the Goddess community, you'll find our group. We've got, I think we're over, I don't know how many women. I think it's close to 50,000 right now. And if you go in there and talk to women about what's going on, you can learn a lot of stuff in there. If you have communities in your area that you can go to that are into healing work, there are usually women's groups in different areas that you can go to and talk to people, and everybody's going to have their own perspectives and opinions. And you want to go and find people that are that seem like they're in a healthy space, and ask them questions about what's going on with you so that you can get a better perspective. Or you can get a coach, that's another way to do it, and find out that kind of stuff. But, what's concerning to me about what you're talking about right now is that you're not intuitively getting where creating distance versus letting him invest in you is, right? That's kind of it comes up to me as there's something missing with what's going on with you, that you're not intuitively getting when you need space and when you don't need space, right? Does that make sense, KK? I hope that helps. I hope I wasn't. I'm coming from a place of wanting to help you the best that I can, KK, because your question is very kind of gamey, and it doesn't need to, it shouldn't be, right? It should be coming from a space of just of wholeness. That's really where you want to be coming from, is a space of wholeness. And when you're trying to figure out when to create space versus letting him invest, it's like, it sounds like there's something missing there. So, okay, we're going to wrap this up in the same way that we do in a lot of different situations. We're going to do the Queen's mantra. So just for a second, just take a deep breath in and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And then take one last deep breath in. And just breathe out any of your anxiety, frustration, stress, overwhelm, any of those things that you're having going on, any fears, just breathe it all out. And just take a second to connect with yourself and connect with your gratitude for life. Maybe think of a moment that you've had recently that was a good moment. Maybe it was you ate something that was really great. Maybe you met somebody really cool. Maybe you had a great hug. Maybe you just felt the warm sun on your face. Maybe you sat in front of a fire. Maybe you ate something really good. Whatever it is, just think of a moment where you can, just something small, just something real small that you can be grateful for. Something that has happened recently that you can be grateful for. Because when we replace our anxieties, our stresses, our fears with things that we can be grateful for, with gifts that enter into our lives that are here to make us better, with appreciation, with valuing. My favorite definition of appreciation actually comes from economics, and it means to raise the value of something, if we can appreciate our lives and what's going on in our lives, not only will we have better lives, but we'll connect with other people in a better way. And so just take a second to just remember a great moment in your life. It could be a small moment. And just feel the gratitude, feel the appreciation for life. Remember, whatever you focus on, you feel. And whatever you feel, you receive. You'll attract more of, you'll invite more into your life. You'll move towards whatever it is that you're focusing on and whatever it is that you're feeling. And so make sure that you're focusing on and you're feeling good things. You're focusing on and you're feeling the things that you want, because you'll receive more of those things in your life. So now we're going to do the Queen's Mantra. When we say it 3 times every time. Are you ready? Here we go. I am valuable. I am worthy, and I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy, and I deserve to be cherished. And just leave here today remembering that you are valuable, that you are worthy, and that you do deserve to have a great man in your life who cherishes you, who sees you, who loves you, who knows every aspect of you, who appreciates you, who raises your value in his eyes and the eyes of yourself, who makes you feel good about yourself, who adds value to your life, who makes you a better version of yourself when he's there. That's really what you want to have. So thank you for being here with me today. I will speak with you again soon, and always remember, you are worth it. Have a great day, great night, wherever you are in the world, and I will speak with you again soon.